Hi everybody, my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga. And in this first video, part of a three-part free video series, I'm going to walk you through today a little bit about shoulder anatomy and how to apply it to yoga practice. And so if you're watching and you're a yoga teacher, which is exactly who this video is targeted to, this is going to be a big help because it's going to maybe even demystify some of the cues that you've heard and maybe even some of the cues that you're using, but you're not exactly sure of the anatomy behind the cue. So let's dive into the anatomy and I can share a little bit more about an example that highlights this. So when we look at the shoulder joint, which is a ball and a socket, we've got a number of different muscles that affect movement through this joint. And the one thing I want you to remember right out of the gate is that the scapula works differently or has its own set of independent movements from the shoulder joint itself, even though the scapula, the shoulder blade, is part of the shoulder joint. So just kind of file that away for future reference. So here, what I'm going to be highlighting is the action of external rotation. So the movements of the body, the anatomical movements, refer to movements that are made in certain planes of the body. And when we move in a rotational way, we're moving through the transverse plane that divides the body into a top and a bottom. So if I externally rotate my shoulders, I turn the palms forward and roll the shoulders open. If I internally rotate my shoulders, I go the other way. So this internal rotation is what's commonly done a lot in hunching. So here we're going the complete opposite way. We're turning the shoulders open. And notice that in order to turn the shoulder open, I've got to turn the hand because I can't open the shoulder without affecting the movement of this limb. And the bottom of the chain, if you think of it like a kinetic chain, which is another anatomical term, is definitely affected. So when I move from this joint, I turn the shoulder open and I affect rotational movement through the arm, right? So through the humerus and the radius and ulna, and the palm faces forward. So let's take a look at the muscles, two muscles that are responsible for external rotation. So now that we've said we're turning the arm, it's got to be something that touches the arm, right? So I want you to kind of start to think like this, especially if you don't know the muscles. And I want to try to use some of this just common sense logic to help demystify, again, what the muscles are that affect certain movements and help break it down so it's easier to understand. So here we're talking about external rotation, movement through the shoulder joint, affecting the rotational position of the arm. So whatever muscle's doing that has got to somehow touch the arm. And if I turn the shoulder open and I'm moving rotationally in the socket here, it's got to be something that also connects to the back of the body. It can't connect to the front because it's moving the shoulder back. So two muscles that connect the scapula to the humerus are the teres minor and the infraspinatus. The teres minor is a smaller muscle and the infraspinatus is more broad and lays on the back of the body on the shoulder blade itself. And so here, right out of the gate, we now know teres minor and infraspinatus connect scapula to humerus. They're responsible for external rotation. And just additionally to let you know, those are two muscles that are part of the four muscle group known as the rotator cuff. So if you're watching this and you'd heard of the rotator cuff but never quite knew what muscles were involved or how many muscles were in the rotator cuff, which many people don't, there are four. Teres minor and infraspinatus are responsible for external rotation. So here's the deal. You notice now that the palms are forward in external rotation, but remember in so many of our yoga poses, the palms face down. But in a pose like plank, so imagine me in plank or down dog, I don't want to hunch. I don't want to internally rotate. So I've got to get a little bit of that external rotation. But how can I cue to external rotation if the palms are facing down? Well, I've got to go back to rotational movement through the humerus. So this speaks to that cue when people are in down dog, roll the inner eyes and the elbows forward. That's what people are trying to trigger in students, external rotation. But I'll bet many yoga teachers use that cue and have no idea about what I just explained to you. So this is the demystification of that cue. When we ask people in plank or down dog to roll the inner eyes of the elbows forward, we probably know, many teachers probably know, you don't want people to hunch, but they may not know the full story. And the anatomy really fills in the blanks and gives us the facts of why we want them to do that, which is we want to turn on their external rotators, and those two muscles are teres minor and infraspinatus, parts of the rotator cuff. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please stay tuned for the next video. Check your inbox because it'll be coming soon. If you have any questions in the interim, just send me an email, Karen@barebonesyoga.com. Namaste.